In the robing room.
The court said, I called you in this morning because during jury selection and the first day of trial, I have observed a troubling pattern of discord between the attorneys in this case. In your interactions with each other, there have been a number of instances of discourteous behavior, including snippiness, bickering, sarcasm, eye-rolling, and heavy sighs. The tenor of the proceedings has been diminished by this negative emotionalism. As officers of the court, I expect that you will observe courtroom decorum and abide by standards of professionalism. If you deal with each other in an unprofessional manner in the presence of the jury, I will stop the proceedings and direct that you only address the court and not each other, which will slow down the trial considerably. You have an ethical obligation to advocate zealously, but that zealousness must never cross the line into disrespect of your adversaries. Such conduct is an affront to the court's dignity and may potentially disrupt and frustrate the trial. I urge you to review the Supreme Court's decision in Pounders v. Watson, 521 U.S. 982, 988, 1997, as well as 18 United States Code, Section 401. In other words, you need to nip it in the bud. Don't test me. I received a letter from the prosecution this morning. They seek to admit certain exhibits that are preserved copies of online posts on G News and Getter. When do you want to use those exhibits?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, we expect those will be offered tomorrow.
The court said, all righty. So I will need a response from the defense today. When do you think you can get that to me?
Mr. Skirrick said, by 3 o'clock, Your Honor.
The court said, all right then. So I will address that after I receive your response. You're excused.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, may we raise a matter that I wish to raise prior to the start of the witness testimony?
The court said, go ahead.
Ms. Schrofa said, Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, in the cross-examination last week, the court might recall I had difficulty with the exhibit numbering. When I tried to pull up an exhibit from the defense side for cross-examination purposes, it did not match up to the numbering on the government side. I have reviewed 3,500 materials in this case that is being given to the defense with constantly changing 3,500 numbers. So what used to be 3519 to 57 3 days ago is a different document than what it is today. I raise this as a seasoned lawyer to inform the court that I'm having trouble keeping up with the constant. I've never had a case where the 3,500 numbers change. So that's one matter. And I hope that we can have a set of documents, and I think Ms. Tilton can speak to this more if need be. But we are having trouble reconciling the 3,500 material being produced with new Bates stamp numbers, with new 3,500 numbers. That's one issue. The second issue is, we're getting 3,500 material, and I know this is normal, but for example, I just walked in this morning and there is a 2-page, single-spaced 3,500 production of the witness that's about to take the stand. So respectfully, I know you don't take a break before lunch, but either I need 20 minutes now to review it or I will need 20 minutes after the witness testifies to review it. I did not even have a second copy to go over it with Mr. Gua. I imposed upon your court to either run to the 5th floor to make a copy, but I see that your law clerk helped me out and made an extra copy, but I need at least 20 minutes to just go over that. I'm sorry to raise this now, but it's...
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, over the weekend our paralegal Ms. Loftus sent the defense, in response to questions from the defense, updated exhibits and exhibit list that we audited, which should resolve the issues that Ms. Schroff just mentioned. The 3,500 that Ms. Schroff is mentioning just now is 3,500 material that was generated this morning. So we gave it to the defense as soon as it was completed. But to help Ms. Schroff out, we will call the witness later on, and we'll call Zhou first so Ms. Schroff will have plenty of time to review that 3,500 material in advance of that witness testimony.
The court said, so this is precisely the type of issue that I should not be hearing about. In 24 years I've never had lawyers come to me and tell me that they can't agree on the numbering of exhibits. For goodness sakes, you have got to cooperate on these purely ministerial matters. So you'll have the break to review that document.
Ms. Schrofa said, Yes, Your Honor, but there's nothing we can do about the numbering system. We're happy to cooperate. I believe Ms. Tilton is in constant contact with them. This is really her bailiwick. She has, and I have. I think Ms. Loftus has done the same. But I don't think that this is a lack of cooperation problem. I don't know what the problem is. Honestly, I've never had a case, I agree with you, where 3,500 numbering is changed. I've never had that. A document that's marked number 19 remains 19.
The court said, Ms. Schroff, I've heard enough. You know how to fix this. Fix it. You're excused.
All counsel said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
Recess. In open court, jury not present.
The court said, Good morning. Would you make your appearances, please?
Appearances noted.
The court said, Please be seated. Please have the jurors brought in.
Jury present.
The court said, Please be seated. Good morning, jurors.
The juror said, "Good morning."
The court said, Welcome back. Thank you for arriving on time. This way, you can walk into the courtroom at 9:30, and we can get going and proceed in an efficient manner. Thank you. Would the prosecution call its next witness?
Ms. Murray said, "Thank you, Your Honor." We call Zhou.
The law clerk said, "Please raise your right hand."
Witness sworn.
The court said, Please state your name and spell it.
The witness said, "My name is Zhou, Lehou."
The court said, You may inquire.
Ms. Murray said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
Lehou, called as a witness by the government, having been duly sworn, testified as follows. Direct examination. By Ms. Murray.
Good morning, Mr. Zhou.
Good morning.
In what state do you live?
Florida.
What do you do for work?
I'm a licensed realtor.
Have you ever been a follower of Miles Gua?
Yes.
Do you see anyone in the courtroom today that you recognize from your time following Miles Gua?
Yes.
Who?
I see Miles Gua.
Can you describe him by where he's seated and an item of clothing he's wearing?
Mr. Kamaraju said, "Will stipulate to identity, Your Honor."
The court said, He has indicated the defendant. Go ahead.
Ms. Murray said, "Thank you, Your Honor." Do you see anyone else that you recognize from your time following Miles Gua in the courtroom here today?
Yes. A few.
Can you identify them by their names or the names you know them by?
There's a few followers sitting in the court on the audience side, left side. The name? Yes. Rachel Eva. Mile 7, Yongbing Zhang. There's a nickname, Heaven Spare No One. That's all I see.
Thank you. Mr. Zhou, where were you born?
China.
When did you come to the United States?
1998.
Why did you come to the United States?
I came here to study, and for college.
After you moved to the U.S., where did you go to school?
I went to Miami-Dade College.
And what did you study there?
I was a major in music education, and I played piano and the trombone.
Mr. Zhou, are you a supporter of the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP?
No.
What experience, if any, has your family had in the past with the CCP?
Our family suffered tremendously from the Chinese government, both family on my mother and my father's side. My maternal grandparents, they went abroad to study. My grandfather was soil engineer. He worked building roads. And at the time he worked for the Chinese government. After he finished building road, he became a professor at a university. During Cultural Revolution and the Red Guards, some of his students came to their houses, physically and verbally abused my both grandparents. So my maternal grandmother couldn't take the shame of it, so she committed suicide. Before she did that, and she took my great-grandmother's life, because she thought no one would take care of her. And so that my maternal parents the families fall apart. My mother was only 16 at the time. My grandparents' side, we used to own business as regular grocery store. We have a small plaza. The government. During Second Sino-Japanese War, they came to ask, they would take our assets to help the country. They said they're going to borrow it, but it took majority of the assets, left little bit for the family to survive. My father has 9 sisters and brothers, but that is not enough to feed all the family. So 2 of the children was forced to give away. That's my both parents, how they suffered from this government. And there's also one big impact, almost not to have me to live, was one child, one policy in China. It was implemented in 1980. At the time, my mother was already 7 months pregnant. And my parents wanted to have me but the government wanted to do a forced abortion. So my mom went hiding while my dad was reasoning with the government. In the end, he made a deal that by lowering my both fathers' salaries and also to give up the newborn baby's welfare. Which is food, milk, I don't get that, so they would spare my life. So, and also one experience I personally witnessed. When I was 9 years old, that's 1989, the student protests happened in Beijing, also happening in my hometown as well. At the time we lived in an apartment, very close to our hometown, the government square, where the student protests happened. So we were quarantined at the house, not allowed to leave the community. And at a time we heard outside shouting, very loud. So I used to live on the first floor. That day, when we heard outside a lot of protests, shouting, and I went up to the 8th floor to my parents' friend's house. Their balconies are facing directly to the streets. When I walk up to there, at a balcony, I saw. Right near a bus stop, a female student was covered, riot police used a sandbag cover her, just yank her away. And 2 other just jump up and beat her up. Then later, I move my aside to nearby, very close, just look down. There's a mall, 1-story mall. There were some protesters climb up the first floor of the roof. And they were throwing some objects into the crowd. Then we hear loud bangs, then I saw the tip of the concrete wall. With the rooftop, the dust just smashing, shooting the air. We heard people shouting, shots fired. Shots fired. We were all scared. We just quickly got inside our house. So that's the fear we felt for, and we know the regime is cruel.
And how, if at all, did those experiences affect your view of the Chinese government?
The government is untrustworthy. Their cruelty and brutality, it's unimaginable.
Mr. Zhou, you mentioned that you had been a follower of Miles Guo. When did you first learn about Miles Guo?
Back in 2017, earlier, February.
And how did you learn about him?
I watched YouTube, while he's broadcast.
What did you see on YouTube about Miles Guo in 2017?
At the beginning, Miles Guo was doing a broadcast called Safety Announcement. So I was just curious who this person was. Then that's how I first watched the videos.
And before watching that video, had you heard of Miles Guo?
No.
Did you continue to watch his videos after that first time that you saw him in 2017?
Yes.
What, if anything, caught your attention about his broadcast?
Miles Guo introduced himself, then we learned he's a self-made billionaire. But he escaped the Chinese government's persecutions, and he escaped to the United States, looking for protection. And he also started talking about corruption, the Chinese high official corruptions. He has classified information. He will expose their corruptions. And I also learned that he living New York, Manhattan. He bought his luxury hotel in New York called Sherry Netherland Hotel. And also he introduced his family back home. He has a big family, near 100 people in his family. And his wealth, the family owns $20 billion networks and he owns private jets, luxury yachts. Over 100 race car, luxury cars. Also, at the time, he's well dressed in his broadcast, seemed very knowledgeable. Well spoken, and he talk about a lot, his knowledge on cultural. And even sometimes a lot of time impressed me was he mentioned he has bodyguards, 24/7, and he has a legal team. Sometimes he mentioned the information he holds, or he has. He will bear the legal responsible for what he talk about.
The information that you just provided. Was the source of that information Miles Guo himself during those broadcasts?
Yes.
Did there come a time when Miles Guo launched a whistleblower movement?
Yes.
How did you learn about that movement?
Because I started watching his videos, and I know the movement cause he called himself a whistleblower.
What, if anything, was the purpose of Guo's whistleblower movement?
Whistleblower movement was to expose Chinese officials' corruptions.
What actions, if any, did Guo encourage whistleblower followers to take to combat the CCP corruption?
At the time he using social media, we become followers of his social accounts. Of course I learned some of the corruption he mentioned in his broadcasts. He encouraged us to spread words. Beginning, my action was just following everyone else, retweets, or sometimes repost while he talk about it. Just spread into other. I had created a Twitter account to help to spread the words.
What, if anything, did Guo say about how people could join the whistleblower movement and become followers?
Beginning, he has had his Twitter accounts, people can follow him, and also, at the time, there were few very activist followers appear on the social media. There would also reveal their identity, face, and join Miles's broadcasts. At the time there were one follower named Sarah Wei. She created a group called Voice of Guo. Then there was a people can also join there. Also that means join the movement. So I joined that group.
Was Voice of Guo also called VOG at times?
Yes.
How, if at all, did the followers communicate with one another?
At the time we have software we used for everyone to communicate. It's called Discord.
Can you describe for the jury what Discord is?
Discord is a free software, allow a user to create channels, which is like chat rooms. The chat room then also you can create subchannels for any other categorized purposes. The software, you're able to let users to join using link, and you can send messages, share messages, pictures, videos, files. And you can also start voice meetings in the group. So when I joined, it was categorized. And the part 1 remember was, there's subchannels so they create a subchannel as a working group. As a task force, for certain things we want to do.
Did you and the other followers use your real names in those Discord chats?
No.
How, if at all, did you identify yourselves?
I had created my username as Coffee Cantata, then used Chinese 2 words, Wenlu, PH. That was my hashtag.
And did other followers similarly use aliases or handles when they communicated with one another?
Yes, mostly at the time everyone has their own nickname.
By the way, what other names, if any, do you know Miles Guo by?
7 brothers, and also Ho Wan Gui, that's the Cantonese pronunciation.
Mr. Zhou, are you familiar with the rule of law organizations?
Yes.
What are those?
Rule of Law was created by Miles for it was a charitable organization.
Around when were those rule of law organizations launched?
In 2018.
And how did you hear about them?
It was publicly announced during press conference.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, at this time I would like to offer a stipulation between the parties. This is Government Exhibit Stip 2.
The court said, so I just want to remind the jurors what a stipulation is. A stipulation is an agreement between both sides to present evidence to the jury, without calling a witness to testify about the subject matter. You may read the stipulation.
Ms. Murray said, Thank you, Your Honor. This is a stipulation regarding web pages and videos. The parties stipulate that in the chart that is contained within this exhibit, which is Government Exhibit Stip 2, columns A, B, and C accurately list the following information. The government exhibits listed in column A are authentic copies of web pages that were preserved from the internet. if a web page contained a video that was also preserved. The associated video is designated with AV in the government exhibit name. For example, GXC20 is a preservation of a web page, and GXC20V is a preservation of the video that was on that web page. Column B in the stipulation lists the web address or URL of the web page that was preserved. And column C lists the date on which the web page was preserved. And at this time, Your Honor, there is a chart contained within this exhibit which is now admitted. I would like to just note two of the exhibits noted within this chart. One is GXC26 and corresponding GXC26V. Those are YouTube videos that were preserved, and they are dated July 15, 2020. And then GXC63 and GXC63V, again. YouTube video from a web page, and that's dated November 25, 2020.
The court said, and you're moving to admit that.
Ms. Murray said, moving to admit those two exhibits from within this chart and moving to admit the stipulation at this time.
The court said, they're all admitted.
Ms. Murray said, thank you.
Government's Exhibit Stip 2, C26, C26V, C63, C63V received in evidence. By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, directing your attention to November of 2018. Did there come a time when you watched a live stream of an announcement relating to the rule of law?
Yes.
Do you recall on what website you watched that announcement?
It was on a live stream.
The website is named Livestream?
That was a link. It's a live stream will push out the channel, the broadcast. But the channel was under Rule of Law Foundation. The live stream, I believe the website associated was Vimeo.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, we would move to admit one more exhibit from GX Stip 2. That's GXW 1005 and GXW 1005V. And that's YouTube, and it was preserved on February 9, 2024.
The court said, they're admitted.
Government's Exhibits W1005, W1005V received in evidence.
Ms. Murray said, thank you. Ms. Loftus, could we now publish what's admitted in evidence GXW 1005V?
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, do you recognize this video?
Yes.
Have you viewed it before?
I watched it earlier in live.
And there's an insignia on the top left here.
Mr. Kamaraju said, Your Honor, I apologize. Could we have a brief sidebar on this?
The court said, all right.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
Mr. Skirik said, Your Honor, the defense just wanted to be clear that the stipulation was just to the online preservation. We hadn't stipped to moving it into evidence. So we have an objection to hearsay. They're going to play a video of Mr. Bannon speaking at this press conference.
The court said, so I don't understand what you're saying was not admitted through the stipulation.
Mr. Skirik said, the stipulation, Your Honor, was just to authenticity. It was to the video having been pulled down from the source. The stip did not go to the admissibility.
The court said, go ahead.
Mr. Ferguson said, that's correct, Your Honor. It's just authenticity in the stip. I understand the objection is to hearsay. We're not offering this video clip for the truth of what Mr. Bannon is saying in it. We're offering it for the falsity of what he's saying. And it's a clip from the joint announcement of the Rule of Law Fund, where both Mr. Guo and then Mr. Bannon speak. And this is a clip from Mr. Bannon's speech.
The court said, so are you seeking to admit it because it's an admission?
Mr. Ferguson said, no, because it's not offered for its truth. We're offering it for the fact that it was said.
Mr. Skirik said, Your Honor.
The court said, for the effect on the listener?
Mr. Ferguson said, correct, Your Honor. These are launch videos that victims watched and believed.
Mr. Skirik said, and Your Honor. What Mr. Bannon is going to say in that video that the government is going to show the witness and the jury is a statement by Mr. Bannon that Mr. Guo was going to start the Rule of Law Foundation with $100 million. They contend that that was a representation that it was his own money. So it is in fact offered for the truth of that statement, that that's in fact what Mr. Bannon said and that was, in effect, a misrepresentation. So I'm not sure that there are non-hearsay issues here. Anne.
The court said, "Are you suggesting a curative instruction?"
Mr. Skirek said, "I think we do need a limiting instruction, Your Honor. But I think there is a risk of 403 with the jury here as well."
The court said, "I would expect that numbers of these types of statements, video or otherwise, are going to be propounded by the prosecution. Am I correct?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Yes, Your Honor."
The court said, "So I'm looking for an application for a limiting instruction."
Mr. Skirek said, "We would ask, Your Honor, that the jury be given a limiting instruction that this is not a statement, that Mr. Bannon's statement is not a statement attributable to Mr. Zhou."
Mr. Ferguson said, "We would object to that. That's not necessary for the admission of the statement. We would be fine with a limiting instruction that said these statements are not being offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. That's the definition."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Your Honor, since this is just an authenticity stip, I think the prosecution has to lay the foundation in order to introduce this through the witness. I know this one has already come in, but I think as these videos are coming in, I think the proper format is to do that first."
The court said, "Absolutely."
Mr. Kamraju said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
The court said, "Okay."
Continued on next page. In open court. By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, there's a logo on the top left of this screenshot. Do you see that?
Yes.
What does that read?
Gua Media.
What is Gua Media, or what was Gua Media at the time?
It was earliest symbol that was created for this movement. There was a media channel. That's the name for it.
And what type of content, if any, was posted on Gua Media at this time?
At this time, this was that press conference happening in New York.
Ms. Murray said, "Ms. Loftus, if we could please play this video. This is Government Exhibit W1005, V1.
The court said, "Is it now that you're looking for me to give the limiting instruction?"
Mr. Kamraju said, "Yes, Your Honor."
The court said, "Members of the jury, this video is not being offered by the government for the truth of what is stated in the video. Keep that in mind as you watch it."
Ms. Murray said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
Video played. By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, do you recognize the individual depicted in this video?
Yes, I do.
Who is it?
Steve Bannon.
What role, if any, did Steve Bannon have with the rule of law?
He was the co-founder of the Rule of Law Foundation.
What, if anything, did you learn from the Rule of Law livestream that you saw in 2018 about whether Miles Guo was donating money to the Rule of Law?
The video I learned from was the conference that talk about this announcement and also talk about this fund will use to help Chinese dissidents and to have them to financially help. And also help them with legal support, and to also use the fund to investigate mysterious business deaths.
The court said, "I'm sorry. Investigate mysterious what?"
The witness said, "Business. Person's deaths."
The court said, "Death. All right. Go ahead."
Did you have an understanding of whether the Rule of Law Fund would be funded with a certain amount of money at its inception?
Yes. There was $100 million.
Now you said from your viewing of Miles Guo's broadcast that at that time you had the impression that Miles Guo was wealthy. Is that correct?
Yes.
At the time that you viewed this launch video in 2018, did you believe that Miles Guo could donate $100 million to the Rule of Law charity?
Yes. You.
Ms. Murray said, "We can take that down, Ms. Loftus." Thank. Did there come a time when you donated to the Rule of Law?
Yes, I did.
Ms. Murray said, "Your Honor, may I approach the witness?"
The court said, "You may."
Ms. Murray said, "Thank you. I've handed the witness a binder that contains exhibits that are marked for identification as GXC 26, GXC 63, V1 and V4. GXCT 209 and 211, GX6150-160 and their corresponding translations, GX6180 through 190 and their corresponding translations, GXV02, 13. 15 to 16, 18 to 19, 22 to 23, 25 to 29, 31, 59, 67 to 69, 77 to 78, 81 to 82, and 84, as well as GXW 1005, GXW 56-57 and GXW 59.
By Ms. Murray.
And Mr. Zhou. I'd ask if you would briefly flip through that binder and let me know if you recognize the exhibits that are in that binder.
Yes.
Are some of those documents that you provided to the government in connection with your time when you were a follower of Miles Guo?
Correct, yes.
Have you reviewed all of the exhibits that are contained within that binder?
Sorry. At this moment?
Previously, before today.
Before, yes, all.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, at this time the government would move to admit government exhibits GXV2, 13, 15 to 16, 18 to 19, 22 to 23, 25 to 29, 31, 59, 67 to 69, 77 to 78, 81 to 82, and 84.
The court said, They are admitted.
Mr. Kamaraju said, no objection.
Ms. Murray said, Thank you.
Government's exhibits V2, 13, 15 to 16, 18 to 19, 22 to 23, 25 to 29, 31, 59, 67 to 69, 77 to 78, 81 to 82, and 84 received in evidence.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can you please publish what's now in evidence as Government Exhibit VO27? If we could zoom in on the top portion.
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, what is this?
That's my receipt, donation receipt.
And what date is this document?
May 18, 2019.
What donation does this reflect?
This is donation to Rule of Law Foundations in $500, my first donation.
Why did you donate to the Rule of Law in 2019?
Yes, because I'm part of the follower, I want to help any of the dissidents, as many as I can. Not just follow Miles Guo to help them, so that's the same goal I wanted to help.
If Miles Guo had not donated $100 million to the Rule of Law, if you had known that at the time, would that have been important to you?
Mr. Kamaraju said, objection to form.
The court said, Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Why would it have been important to you at that time if you had known that Miles Guo had not donated $100 million to the Rule of Law?
Because there's a lot of people that need help, Chinese people, there's a lot of dissidents. Me alone. 500, I can do as much as I can, but $100 million, that can help a lot of people.
Ms. Murray said, We can take that down, Ms. Loftus. Thank you. Mr. Zhou, did there come a time when you volunteered for Miles Guo and his whistleblower movement?
Yes, I did.
Around when did you begin to volunteer?
In 2017, couple months I start following, just retweeting when Miles Guo started. And later I also volunteered to transcribe Miles Guo's videos. I also did translation and video editing. And I also helped the streaming services for the movement.
Who, if anyone, assigned that volunteer work to you?
From beginning, from the VOG, there were some volunteer groups, they give me the transcript work to do. Then later, the work assigned from farm management teams.
The court said, What do you mean by transcript work?
The witness said, Yes, Your Honor. Transcript means most of Miles Guo's video it's in Chinese speaking. Now there's not a subtitle, so we would have to create the subtitles. That's transcript. I would listen the video, take down what Miles Guo said in Chinese, then type it into a Chinese, become a subtitle.
And when you say farm, you mentioned that some of the work was assigned to you by farm leaders. Can you explain to the jury what you mean by farm?
Farm is an adjective. It's quotation for work, but the real meaning is refer to offices. And Miles Guo mentioned, when the whistleblower established, he wanted to have 50 farms in different regions throughout the world, become the subdivisions, offices.
In what way, if any, were the farms kind of organized under one unit?
The farm organized, there are person we call farm leader. Most of the people were very active as a follower, follow the movement, follow movement. Those people are most of them are designated by Miles Guo to become the farm leaders. So there were farm. Once it's created, in different countries, regions, then also gather people locally or online to have their own groups. But all under one of the headquarter, which is farm called Himalaya Global Alliance to managing those farms.
Who, if anyone, was in charge of the Himalaya Global Alliance?
At the time Global Alliance was only a few people and Miles Guo was one. There are few peoples. Then they call themselves Iron Blood, a group.
Why, if at all, did the leaders of the Himalaya Global Alliance, Miles Guo and the others, call themselves the Iron Blood Group?
There were individuals selected by Miles to give titles. Because Himalaya Global Alliance formed with a designated chairman, Secretary General. And there's a few people that Miles Guo designated those people. Miles Guo said, those are brothers because those brothers are willing to sacrifice for him and shed the blood with him and for this movement. So that name was formed from that.
Returning to your volunteer work that you did for the movement, were you paid for that work?
No.
You mentioned that you were involved in, among other things, streaming. On what website or websites did you stream content?
On streaming, I did YouTube, and also on Getrin GTV.
What is Getter?
Getter is the social platform created by Miles Guo. It's similar to Twitter. It's just like Twitter features. You share your posts and people can follow, retweet.
What is GTV?
GTV, it's a website that's similar act as YouTube, allow you to post in the live streams, post videos.
And who, if anyone, was in charge of GTV?
In charge of GTV, I don't know.
Whose company, if anyone's, was GTV?
Oh, GTV was owned by Guo Media.
And who owned, in turn, Guo Media?
That, I don't know who owned the company.
Focusing on GTV for a moment, what, if anything, at that time, in 2018, 2019, did Miles Guo say about GTV?
Miles, GTV here introduced, and he called out for investment that asked people who like to invest into GTV.
Around when did Miles Guo offer an investment opportunity into GTV?
Earlier 2020.
Directing your attention to March of 2020. Did you participate in a Guo broadcast regarding that GTV investment opportunity?
Yes, I did.
What, if anything, did Guo ask his followers about their interest in investing in GTV during that broadcast?
I remember I watched the video live when it was broadcast. Miles Guo was calling people who like to invest in GTV. He mentioned if you like to invest in $10,000. Raise your hand in the chat group by posting of the emoji, icon, as your intent. He also asked, let me see who wanted to invest $100,000 using 2 of the emoji as your intent.
And during that broadcast what level of interest, if any, was there from the followers in investing in GTV?
I sent 1 emoji as for intent for $10,000.
From your viewing of that live broadcast, did other followers similarly indicate their interest in investing in GTV?
Yes. There were a lot of 1 emoji for $10,000 and also few $100,000 investment that people putting 2 emojis.
By Ms. Murray.
Now, directing your attention to April 21st of 2020. Did you watch a pre-recorded broadcast that Guo streamed about the GTV investment opportunity?
Mr. Kumraju said, objection to form, Your Honor. She's testifying.
The court said, you can restate the question.
Directing your attention to April 21st of 2020. Did you watch any broadcasts on that day that were relevant to GTV?
Yes.
Did those include a broadcast of Miles Gua?
Yes.
What, if anything, was the subject of what Miles Gua was discussing during that broadcast?
Yes. I remember I got a share link for that. Miles Gua mentioned the GTV. First he mentioned any investment has risk. Then for any investor you will make your own judgment. Then he talk about the GTV. We know that's the mention based on his part to talk about GTV investment. He mentioned about the GTV how become today. There's a breakthrough because GTV has been targeted. He mentioned target by CCP, hacking, a lot of hackers trying to take down. The GTV was pulled us off, it's not easy. But he mentioned the GTV future forecasts, this is a platform that's intended for Chinese dissidents have a voice. Freedom of speech. We're the only one, no other platform. And he mentioned this, as we all see, GTV future growths. From the current 6 people online at the same time. But eventually will grow to thousands people doing the broadcast together, the skill of it. And so I remember that video also post contact information, his personal contact information for the investment. If anyone want to invest, can direct contact.
When you say his personal contact information, to whom are you referring?
Miles Gua.
So in that video, Miles Gua provided his information for people to contact regarding an investment?
Yes.
What, if anything, did Miles Gua say in that video about what you would get in exchange for investing in GTV?
We'll get stocks, GTV stocks.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, at this time I would like to offer a stipulation between the parties. This is Government Exhibit STIP 9. The stipulation reads that the parties stipulate and agree that in the below chart which is contained in this exhibit, the exhibits listed under column A contain audio or text in a foreign language. And in the chart that's contained within this stipulation, the exhibits listed under column B are true and accurate translations of the audio or text contained in the exhibits listed under column A. The stipulation further stipulates and agrees that the stipulation, as well as the government exhibits listed under column B, those are the translation and transcript stipulations, may be received into evidence as government exhibits at trial.
The court said, the stipulation is admitted.
Government's Exhibit STIP-9 received in evidence.
Ms. Murray said, and with respect to the particular items contained within the chart. At this time the government would move to admit GXC26V and its corresponding GXC26T, which is the translation and transcription, as well as GXC63V and its corresponding GXC63T, which is the transcription and translation.
The court said, no objection?
Mr. Kamraju said, no. I would just ask the government to go ahead and just admit all the exhibits that are in the STIP for efficiency.
Ms. Murray said, sure. We would then move to admit all of the exhibits contained within the chart that's in Government Exhibit STIP 9.
The court said, they are admitted.
Ms. Murray said, thank you. Ms. Loftus, can you please pull up Government Exhibit GXC 26? Just a moment, Your Honor.
Counsel conferred.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, I would like to withdraw the request to admit all of the items contained within this stipulation. The parties' agreement was to admit certain of the translations, but not the full videos listed in column A. So I would like to withdraw the request to admit everything that's noted within the chart. At this time I would just move to admit the 2 particular exhibits that I had mentioned.
The court said, all right then. So those items that were admitted are not admitted. And what you're requesting to admit now is admitted.
Ms. Murray said, thank you, Your Honor. So just for clarity for the record, what I'm seeking to admit is Government Exhibit STIP 9, which is the stipulation, Government Exhibit C26V and C26T, and Government Exhibit C63V and C63T.
The court said, they are admitted.
Ms. Murray said, thank you.
Government's Exhibits C, 26 V C 26 T C 63 V C 63 T received in evidence.
Ms. Murray said, all right. Ms. Loftus, if we could please put up Government Exhibit C-26.
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, looking at this, do you recognize this video?
Yes.
And up in the top left there is a logo and insignia. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
GTV logos.
Did you watch this video when it was posted online in April 2020?
No, it wasn't posted online when I watch it, so I share a link.
And who, if anyone, shared the link with you to the video?
One of the farm members.
When you say the link was shared, how was it shared with you?
I shared it on the Telegram, our Working the Farm working channels.
So that's over phone application, is that correct?
Yes.
The court said, what do you mean by Telegram?
The witness said, yes, Your Honor. Telegram is another social media software. It's more like you can allow you instant message. You can do it as individual one-on-one, or you can also have a group chat. And there also you can share your files, pictures, links, videos, etc.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can you please play this video from the beginning up until 41 seconds?
Video played.
Ms. Murray said, thank you. We can take that down.
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, what, if anything, did Guo say during that video that was broadcast about the amount of stock that one would receive in exchange for their GTV investment?
I remember was the GTV stock in total was about to issue 20 million to 200 million stocks.
And what, if anything, did he say about how much stock somebody would get for the money that they invested personally?
$1 per share.
Did there come a time when you invested in GTV?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the question?
Sure. Did there come a time when you invested in GTV?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
I invested end of the May 2020.
And how much did you invest?
I sent 2 payments total for $31,300.
Where did you send your money for that GTV investment?
I send it through VOG, Voice of Guo, the channel which controlled by Sarah Wei.
Why did you send your GTV investment to VOG or Voice of Guo?
Because my investment is less than $100,000, and also Sarah was designated person also can take the GTV placement. Private placement.
Can you explain for the jury how, if at all, it was relevant that your investment was below $100,000?
Could you please be more specific?
Sure. So I believe that you said because your investment was below $100,000, you sent it to VOG. Is that correct?
Yes.
Who, if anyone, directed you to send your investment which was below $100,000 to VOG?
Because the first GTV Miles Guo mentioned about the GTV placement, they were giving out only 2,000 seats. There is a head count, it's limitation on there. The limitation then the people can minimum you can invest $100,000 up to all the way to $1 million. But it's limited seats. And if a lot of people, especially not qualified for the seats are less $100,000. But we can have this other company to invest on our behalf to acquire the GTV stocks. So that was I understand myself my investment is not qualified with the seats. And it's not exceeds over $100,000, so I just went through the VOG, asked for the investment.
So at that time was it your understanding that VOG invested on your behalf and on behalf of others in GTV?
No, they are.
Mr. Kamaraju said, objection, Your Honor, to form.
The court said, sustained. Don't lead.
Did you have an understanding at the time in whose name your money was being invested?
GTV Media.
And for purposes of the shares, whose names, if anyone's, would be on the shares that you spent your money to invest in?
Mr. Kamaraju said, objection to form.
The court said, if you'd rephrase please.
Ms. Murray said, sure. Mr. Zhou, you mentioned that you invested your money through VOG. Is that correct?
Yes.
What arrangement or legal agreement, if any, did you enter into with VOG?
Mr. Kumraju said, objection to form.
The court said, did you enter into a legal agreement?
Ms. Murray said, thank you. Did you enter into a legal agreement with VOG?
Yes.
Can you describe that legal agreement to the jury, please?
It was agent agreement. Sarah Wei would act as my agent to take my investment for the GTV investment.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we please publish Government Exhibit VO81? Mr. Zhou, what is this?
This is wire instruction I received.
And who, if anyone, sent this to you?
Sent by Sarah Wei, the Voice of Goi channel leader.
I think you mentioned previously that Sarah Wei had some role within the Himalaya Global Alliance. Can you just describe that for the jury?
Yes. She was very active follower before. She revealed herself and joined the movement as well. Then she had some meeting with Milesqua, even publicly, live broadcast together. So at the time she was with another person that she was very active and designated. And because she also gathered some followers and fall through the whistleblower movement. She formed a group. She was the whistleblower movement. So at the time Milesqua was also designate her as the followers. The group leaders. And she can also have authorization from Milesqua to collect GTV investment for us.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we please publish Government Exhibit VO82? Zoom in on the top. Mr. Zhou, what is this?
That's my wire confirmations.
And looking at this, what was the date of this wire transfer?
May 28, 2020.
And it was a wire sent to where?
It was sent to Voice of Goi Media.
And what was the amount of this particular wire?
$20,000.
Ms. Murray said, we can take that down. Thank you. Why did you want to invest in GTV at that time in May of 2020?
Because first I want to get a GTV stock. And the GTV, I was also the user. And this is a platform. GTV website also is for the freedom of voice for other Chinese people dissidents. And I was follower myself. I really a believer for this movement. I want to just be part of it and also to help grow this GTV. The GTV was just like any other tech company started. There's also about Milesqua mention we also will grow this to become the world #1 social media platform. Surpass YouTube. We have all the features, we'll combine Zoom, combine YouTube. We'll have the best top technology implemented into this GTV. So for that I want to be part of it. So I invested.
When Milesqua said at the time in 2020 that GTV would surpass YouTube, did you believe him then?
Yes. Eventually.
Did you, in fact, receive stock or any shares in exchange for your GTV investment?
No.
At that time in 2020, what, if anything, did Milesqua say about whether there was a risk of losing your principal investment in GTV?
He made a personal guarantee that for other people invested in GTV would not lose their money. He made personal guarantee on that.
Can you explain what you mean by personal guarantee?
During his broadcast, he mentioned all the money we invested, that principal would never lose. Lost even a cent. He will personally pay back.
And at that time, in 2020, did you believe that Milesqua was capable of paying or guaranteeing your investment?
Yes.
At that time, 2020, did you have an understanding from Gua's broadcasts about the value of GTV stock?
Yes.
What was your understanding?
There is another broadcast lively on Milesqua broadcast that I watched live on that day. Where successfully close out the placement, GTV private placement was announcement. Milesqua mentioned have received GTV alone received $335 million, from VOG received $117 million. And combined, that's near $500 million investment. And the valuation at the time of GTV. He gave up the statement about the value was $2 billion. Then he added from his legal team and from his financial experts the valuation should be $10 billion. So just that moment he explained the investment we did, from 7-point time jumped to estimate made about 30 times.
And at the time that you watched that broadcast in 2020, did you believe Miles Guo regarding the valuation of GTV?
Yes, I did.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we please pull up Government Exhibit C-63V, which is in evidence? If we could just publish it to the jury, please. Mr. Zhou, do you recognize this video?
Yes.
Is this a broadcast that you watched at the time that it was posted on the internet in 2020?
Yes.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if we could go to the 12-minute and 40-second mark, please, and start playing.
Video played.
Ms. Murray said, we can pause for a moment please. Your Honor, we've also admitted Government Exhibit C-63T, which is the translation and transcript of this video. I'm going to play this portion and then I'm going to ask Mr. Zhou to read portions of that transcript. Thank you. Ms. Loftus. We can continue.
Video played.
Ms. Murray said, you can stop there. Thank you. Ms. Loftus. If you could please now publish for the jury what's in evidence as Government Exhibit C-63T. And if we could go down to the time stamp of 12:40, please. And zoom in on the right. Mr. Zhou, this is a translation and transcription of the video clip that we just watched. If you could just read in the right column there the English for the jury.
Sure. We had an initial valuation of $200 million for GTV. And the private placement required a minimum investment of $20 million. The private placement exceeded the highest expectations and raised $350 million. This is up to now, this figure. Is about $360 million, let's say $350 million. $350 million does not include the $117 million from VOG. If $117 million plus $350 million, it's more than $480 million, which is almost $500 million. But the figure we have now is the $350 million received, which is just for the contracts with GTV. This turned out to be a conservative estimate and 17.5 times the valuation. Given the tremendous demand for GTV shares and the good capital position of GTV going forward, my lawyers and financial experts mutually agree that a $2 billion valuation is probably too low, and that the actual value of the company is probably closer to $10 billion given the tremendous demand for GTV shares.
Ms. Murray said, thank you. We can take that down. Mr. Zhou, at the time that you watched this broadcast in 2020, did you believe Miles Guo that the value of GTV was approximately $10 billion?
Yes.
At the time that you invested in GTV in 2020, what, if anything, did you understand that your investment would be used for?
Yes. The money first will use to enhance the GTV's features, purchasing top-tiers companies and to expand GTV to take over the YouTube. Become world #1 social media.
At that time in May of 2020, if you'd believed that Guo would use GTV investment money for his own personal expenses, would you have invested in GTV?
Mr. Kumraju said, objection to form, Your Honor.
The court said, if you'll step up please.
Continued on next page. At sidebar.
The court said, I'll hear your objection.
Mr. Kumraju said, Your Honor, Ms. Murray continues to just embed facts that are not in evidence, asking questions. Then asking the jury to infer, asking the witness to agree with them. That's, in essence, putting her own testimony in front of the jury. If she wants to elicit those questions, She can ask open-ended questions. That was our objection to the form.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor. I believe that the court ruled that hypotheticals could come in questioning of witnesses and, in particular, victim witnesses. And that is what I'm posing to this witness.
The court said, I don't see how she gets at it without asking hypothetical questions.
Mr. Kamaraju said, she could still lay the foundation prior to asking a hypothetical.
The court said, so I think that he's asking you to state whether it's his understanding, the witness's understanding, that, or whether he knows whether Mr. Guo invested the money that he claimed that he had invested.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, you had ruled in pre-trial rulings that to prove materiality, we can ask the hypothetical question such as, if you had known X, would you have invested? And that's, standard in fraud cases like this.
The court said, of course. I don't think that it's improper though for her to ask whether.
Mr. Ferguson said, to establish she doesn't, in fact, know how it was used. I'm sorry.
The court said, the fact that she's assuming is that Mr. Guo did not invest the $100 million. And so do you know whether the witness knows whether Mr. Guo invested the $100 million?
Ms. Murray said, so this is with respect in particular to the witness's GTV investment and other GTV investment money. I don't believe the witness has any personal knowledge of how that money was used, except to say that. Sitting here today, the witness has an understanding that it was not all used for GTV's business and instead was used for personal expenses.
Mr. Kamaraju said, understanding based on the government's allegations, Your Honor, not on any evidence.
Ms. Murray said, and just to be clear, that's why I asked the question in the manner that I did.
The court said, I don't know that it is detrimental for her to ask it this way as opposed to asking whether he knows if the money was used by Mr. Guo to invest.
Mr. Kamaraju said, to me, Your Honor, the problem is Your Honor definitely ruled that they can ask a hypothetical. So the question is what, if any, foundation they have to lay prior to asking a hypothetical.
The court said, exactly.
Mr. Kamaraju said, so to me, maybe it's just a form point on this particular hypothetical. I suspect they are going to ask many more, so that's why I think it's appropriate to raise it now. To me, she can just establish the basic foundation for it, and then she can ask her hypothetical if she wants.
The court said, okay.
Ms. Murray said, I will do that. I did ask if he had an understanding of how the money was used. But I can ask that question again if that would be sufficient foundation.
Mr. Kamaraju said, that's the distinction.
Ms. Shrofa said, the question is whether he had knowledge, not what his understanding is. Because his understanding could come from your prep of him during his preparation for his testimony here. The question is what knowledge he had at that time, not the knowledge he has now.
Mr. Finkel said, at the time his understanding would address all these concerns and be consistent with the court's ruling.
Ms. Shrofa said, not understanding knowledge.
The court said, you can ask about knowledge and then ask your hypothetical.
Ms. Murray said, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Kamaraju said, thank you, Your Honor.
In open court.
The court said, you may continue.
Ms. Murray said, thank you, Your Honor.
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, in May of 2020, when you invested in GTV, did you have any knowledge of how your investment was going to be used?
Yes.
And what did you believe your investment would be used for, again, in May of 2020?
Yes, at the time I believe my investment will use to enhance the GTV. To bring this GTV platform to #1 leading social media platform.
At that time, in May of 2020. If you had believed that Miles Guo would use your GTV investment money for his personal expenses, would you have invested in GTV?
Mr. Kamaraju said, objection, Your Honor. We just addressed this at sidebar.
The court said, if you'll step up again.
Continued on next page. At sidebar.
The court said, are you asking for, stating that she needs to ask whether Mr. Guo used the money? I mean, what is the question that you're looking for?
Mr. Kamaraju said, no. I thought, my understanding when we left the sidebar was that she was going to ask questions. Do you know how the money was used? She has not asked it.
Ms. Murray said, I believe I did ask that.
Mr. Kumraju said, no, the question that I heard, if I got it wrong, I apologize, was how did he believe he thought the money was going to be used? She never asked the follow-up question of do you know how the money was used in May of 2020?
The court said, so you're going to ask the do you know question.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, what's relevant is his understanding and his knowledge. That goes to the reason that he invested. That's the materiality point. I don't think that it's necessary to establish whether he, as an investor, knew what was happening with the money that was being invested into this company in order for him to say what his motivation was for investing.
Mr. Kumraju said, if you don't ask, if you don't establish that he doesn't know, then how do you ask a hypothetical that says, if you had known, then how would that change your opinion?
The court said, okay.
Mr. Kumraju said, thank you, Your Honor.
In open court.
The court said, you may continue.
By Ms. Murray.
Mr. Zhou, in May of 2020, after you invested $31,300 in GTV. At that time, did you have personal knowledge of how your investment was used?
The money invested to GTV, my understanding was intended to enhance the GTV. Purchase top-tier company or software to make it enhancement and to become the world #1 platform. Surpass YouTube.
And what is that understanding that you had in May 2020? What is that understanding based on?
Miles Guo mentioned his broadcast.
Aside from what Miles Guo mentioned, do you have personal knowledge? Do you know how your money was used, or did you know in May 2020 how your money was used?
That I don't know.
If you had believed that Guo would use your GTV investment money for his own personal expenses in May of 2020, would you have invested in GTV at that time?
No.
Have you heard the phrase, G-Series?
Yes.
What is G-Series?
G-Series is investments including GTV, G-News, G-Fashion, G-Mall, G-Clubs, etc., which were all created by Miles Guo. And this is one of a financial system for the whistleblower movement as their ecosystem.
Do you have an understanding of what, if anything, the G in G-Series stands for?
Yes.
What's your understanding?
G is the English letter reference Miles Guo's last name initial, first initial.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus. Can we please pull up for the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 6-151? Mr. Zhou, do you recognize this?
Yes.
At a high level, what is it?
Miles Guo's broadcast.
Do you see the date on the top left?
Yes.
Did you watch this particular broadcast at the time that it was posted on the internet on or about that date?
Yes.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, the government would move to admit Government Exhibit 6-151.
Mr. Kumraju said, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit 6-151 received in evidence.
Ms. Murray said, if we could play that, please, Ms. Loftus. We can publish it to the jury first and then we'll play it.
Video played.
Ms. Murray said, we can stop there, please. We can take it down. Mr. Zhou, there was a reference in the first video clip to Sarah's VOG. What does that refer to?
Sarah Wei.
And VOG, what does that reference?
Voice of Guo.
There was also a reference to a Guo Wengui. Did you see and hear that?
Yes.
Who is that?
Miles Guo.
Generally speaking, what, if anything, did Miles Guo say during those broadcasts we just viewed?
Personally guarantee that investors' money will not lose, only gain. If any 10 cents loss, he'll personally pay.
And did you view those videos at the time that they were posted in 2021?
Yes.
And at that time, when you viewed those videos, did you believe Miles Guo that he would personally guarantee any investments in the G-Series?
Yes.
I want to turn your attention now to June of 2020. Did there come a time when Miles Guo announced the launch of a new organization?
Yes.
What was the name of that organization?
It's called New Federal State of China.
Was that also referred to as the NFSC?
Yes.
What was the New Federal State of China?
It's a supervisory organization for the whistleblower movement.
Can you describe how Miles Guo announced the launch of the NFSC?
Yes. That was June 4, 2020. He announced this establishment of NFSC on his private yacht and was lively broadcasted.
Did you watch that broadcast when it was broadcast on June 4, 2020?
Yes, I watched.
How, if at all, is the NFSC, or at the time was the NFSC associated with the G-series?
G-series were already launched before, then it was for the other whistleblower movement. And NFSC was established because NFSC is a supervisory organization on top of all the movement. That's the name that will be used in the future too as a legitimate government. So that's ultimately a name that for this movement.
What do you mean when you say that the NFSC is going to be a government?
Because the movement will take down the China Communist Party. Once Chinese CCP falls, then this organization will try to replace the CCP, give the people one person, one vote.
And how was it your understanding that the NFSC, let me put it in timing, in June of 2020? How was it your understanding that the NFSC was going to take over for the Chinese Communist Party?
At that time my understanding was just to expose the Chinese corruptions. Miles Guo has 3 tactics. He mentioned that by eliminate CCP using by law, by eliminate CCP, using America power, American powers. By eliminate CCP by using CCP itself, that's he mentioned it.
So at that time, in June 2020, was your understanding that the NFSC was going to be a government? Was that based on statements by Miles Guo?
Correct.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we please publish what's in evidence as Government Exhibit CT-209? Mr. Zhou, looking at the item. Ms. Murray said, if we could zoom in, Ms. Loftus, in the middle of this. The figure that's depicted in those 2 posters or pictures, do you recognize that shape?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
That's the star from the NFSC flag.
How many points does that star have?
Total, 49 stars.
Can you explain for the jury how you get 49 points from that star?
It's a 7 times 7 equal 49.
And what is the significance, if any, of 7 points on that star?
7, we all call Miles Guo 7 brothers. There's a lot of 7 he's associated with. So he was part of the flag creations, participated. And so I believe that's a flag that represents 7 as Miles, the 7s.
Ms. Murray said, we can take that down, Ms. Loftus. Mr. Zhou, did there come a time after the GTV private placement closed in June 2020? When Miles Guo announced a farm-related investment opportunity?
Yes.
What was that opportunity?
That's called a farm loan.
Can you describe for the jury what the nature of the farm loan investment opportunity was?
Farm loan was to have investors lend money to the call it farms, which is the NFSC offices in different divisions throughout the world. Then there was a term lend the money to the farm to use to operate for hirings, expand, and recruit.
And based on the farm loan opportunity, what, if anything, would a lender get in exchange for the loan?
There is a term for 3-year term. And there is also interest rate for annual interest rate placed on that.
And at the end of that 3-year term, what options, if any? Did lenders have to either get their principal and their interest rate or something else?
You have choice to get your money, interest plus your principal, plus interest back. And also you can get stocks.
What type stocks?
GTV stocks.
How was it your understanding at that time, in June 2020, that the farm loan investment opportunity offered either return on your money or stock?
I'm sorry, Could you just repeat it one more time?
Yeah. In June of 2020 or thereabouts, how was it your understanding that, by giving a loan to the farm, 3 years later you could either receive your money back with interest or you could receive stock?
We have agreements.
What type of agreements?
Loan agreements signed with the farms.
And who, if anyone, announced the farm loan program?
Miles Gua announced.
At that time, in 2020, were you a member of any farm?
Yes, I am.
Which farm were you a member of at that time?
The first farm on social is called UK London Club.
Did you participate in the farm loan program?
Yes, I did.
With which farm did you participate in the farm loan program?
UK London Club.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can you publish Government Exhibit VO-22, which is in evidence? Mr. Zhou, do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is this?
This a farm loan agreement.
What is the name of the borrower listed on this agreement?
It's US Himalaya Capital Inc.
What farm, if any, is US Himalaya Capital Incorporated associated with?
This is a farm UK London Club farm.
And the lender listed there, whose name is that?
That's my name.
What date did you enter into this loan agreement, the UK farm?
August 24, 2020.
And under the terms of this loan agreement, what was the stated use of the loan that you provided to the UK London Club?
It's for the general working capital purpose for the farm.
How much did you invest in the farm loan program?
$21,000.
Ms. Murray said, we could take this down, Ms. Loftus. Mr. Zhou, at the time that you signed the loan agreement in August of 2020, what was your understanding of how your money would be used?
For the farm to establish offices, hiring staffs, and other corporate operation expenses.
And at that time in August 2020, what was your understanding of what you would get, if anything, in exchange for your loan to the UK farm?
It was 8% for 3 years term.
At that time, in August 2020, why did you participate in the farm loan program?
Because I want to help the farm and I want to get the stocks.
And what type of stock did you expect you would get in exchange for your loan to the UK farm?
The GTV common stocks.
Why did you believe that you would get GTV stock in exchange for making a loan to the farm?
Because that was part of what Miles Gua introduced this project, as investment opportunities.
Did there come a time when Miles Gua announced another investment opportunity that was called G Clubs?
Yes.
When was that?
It was same year, 2020 introduced.
At that time, in 2020, what did you understand G Clubs to be?
G Club is to as other exclusive club for high net worth people, individual to have. To show your status. But as we are already investing to GTV, our wealth in the future will be tremendous big. So this club is created to also to serve additional as a financed project will have another features to give to those members. So that's a club was created.
The court said, what do you mean by exclusive club?
The witness said, yes, Your Honor. Exclusive, this Miles Gua mention about other society has those club. Like royal family. This particular club, for example, Masons, there's other clubs. So he want create some similar clubs for particular individuals, which is this is among the NFSC members. By Ms. Murray.
At that time, in 2020, did you understand that G Club had any physical locations, any actual club location?
No.
At that time, in 2020, what, to your understanding, would you get in exchange for investing in G Clubs?
Mr. Kamaraju said, objection to form, Your Honor.
The court said, rephrase please.
Ms. Murray said, yes, Your Honor. In 2020, what did you understand the G Club investment opportunity to be?
Mr. Kamaraju said, Your Honor, I'm going to continue to object. I can explain at sidebar.
Ms. Murray said, if I may have a moment, Your Honor.
Counsel conferred.
Ms. Murray said, may I try again, Your Honor?
The court said, go ahead.
Ms. Murray said, thank you. Mr. Zhou, in 2020, what did you understand that paying money to G clubs would give you?
Yes. There was offer the members will give stocks, the G Club stocks. Second, we'll get passports. Third, we'll get another investments called exchange of coins. Fourth, we'll get discount-rated deals from travel agencies or even shoppings, like luxury airjets, Bombardier. And the last one was for discount shopping on G Fashion.
Taking those in turn, starting with the last, what was G Fashion?
G Fashion is part of the G series. It's clothing for fashion where you can shop luxury clothes.
Where were G Fashion items sold, if anywhere?
Was sold in the States, United States.
You mentioned that you had an understanding at that time in 2020 that you could get other benefits in exchange for paying money to G clubs. Is that right?
Yes.
What was that understanding based on at that time?
That was introduced by Miles Guo.
What was the cost of a G Club's membership in 2020?
G Club membership has 5 tiers. The first tier is $10,000, with each $10,000 increasement to top 5 tiers.
So for the top tier, what was the cost of a top tier membership at that time?
That would be $50,000.
Did there come a time when you purchased any G Club's memberships?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
That in September 2021.
And how many memberships did you purchase?
I purchased 2, Tier 2 and Tier 5.
What was the cost of the Tier 2 membership?
That's $20,000.
And what was the cost of the Tier 5 membership?
$50,000.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we please publish what's in evidence as Government Exhibit VO-25? Zoom in on the top portion. Actually, the body of this. Mr. Zhou, what is this?
That's my G Club membership notification after the application was approved.
And looking at the initial line, it's addressed to someone. Can you read what that reads?
I'm sorry, could you please?
Sure. Starting with the word my at the beginning of this notification, what does that line say?
My dear fellow fighters.
And then looking down at the bottom of this, who signed, or who is this notification from? According to body of this email?
The name signed, Wo Wengue. That's Miles Guo.
And how is he described here?
G Club's official spokesperson.
How did you pay for your G Club's memberships?
I paid by checks.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, can we please take this down and publish Government Exhibit VO-26, which is in evidence? Mr. Zhou, do you recognize these?
Yes.
Are these the checks that you sent to become a G Club's member?
Yes.
What is the date of each of these checks?
The first check, August 24, 2021.
And the second?
August 25, 2021.
And looking at the memo line, there is some text in the memo line of each of these checks. What, if anything, does that text indicate?
That's indicate my application numbers.
The court said, Sir, other than the payment of money, was there any other requirement or criteria in order to join the club?
The witness said, yes, Your Honor. To join the club, you have to be a follow members, which is the I have received members. And to purchase at a beginning, it wasn't required for the only members, and it has previously investing the GTVs, and also donated to Rule of Law Foundation. By Ms. Murray.
So in submitting an application for a G Club's membership, what information, if any, were you required to provide about prior donations to Rule of Law or prior investment in GTV?
We have to include input or assign the investment IDs and which farm we were associated with into applications.
Ms. Murray said, and if we could go back, Ms. Loftus, to Government Exhibit VO-25. If we could zoom in on the first paragraph. Please, that starts with, congratulations. Mr. Zhou, can you just read the text here starting with, congratulations?
Yes. Congratulations. I am pleased to announce that your Tier 5 membership to G Clubs has been approved. As a spokesman for G Clubs, I extend a warm welcome to your membership to the future.
Ms. Murray said, we can take that down. Mr. Zhou, did you receive any stock shares in exchange for your G Clubs membership payment?
No.
You mentioned that there were discounts that you could use as a G Clubs member. Where could you use those discounts?
Mean I use on gfashion.com.
Did you purchase any items from gfashion.com?
Yes.
Did you purchase some of those items before you became a G Clubs member?
Yes.
Did you purchase some items after you became a G Clubs member?
Yes.
Can you describe the quality of the items that you purchased from G Fashion?
The quality itself is very ordinary, normal, compared to what I think the clothes we normally get.
I'd like to look at a few of the items that you purchased from G Fashion. Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, may I approach?
The court said yes.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, I'm handing the witness what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibits 32, 33, 34, and 35. Mr. Zhou, do you recognize Government Exhibits 32, 33, 34, and 35?
Yes.
What are they?
Those are my purchase item from gfashion.com.
Are those just some of the items that you purchased from G Fashion?
Yes.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, the government would move to admit Government Exhibits 32, 33, 34, and 35.
Mr. Kamarju said, no objection.
The court said, they are admitted.
Government's Exhibits 32, 33, 34, 35 received in evidence.
If you could start with Government Exhibit 32, please, Mr. Zhou, and hold that up for the jury. What is Government Exhibit 32?
That's a baseball cap.
And where did you purchase that?
gfashion.com.
What was the approximate cost of that baseball cap?
This I remember cost close to $200.
If you could please hold up Government Exhibit 34. What is that item?
Just a regular shirt.
And is that one of the items that you purchased from G Fashion?
Yes.
What was the approximate cost of that t-shirt?
This one was about $150.
And now if you can please pull up or hold up Government Exhibit 33.
Yes.
What is Government Exhibit 33?
This is silk pants, ladies wear.
What was the approximate price of those pants on G Fashion?
It was listed about $800.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, if we could show the witness what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibit W58.
The court said, all right.
Ms. Murray said, While we're waiting, Your Honor, may I publish Government Exhibits 32, 33, and 34 to the jury?
The court said you may.
Ms. Murray said, Thank you. Mr. Zhou, do you recognize Government Exhibit W58?
Yes.
Ms. Murray said, If we could scroll down a bit, Ms. Loftus. Have you visited the website that's depicted in Government Exhibit 58 before?
Yes, I did.
Ms. Murray said, We would move to admit Government Exhibit W58.
Mr. Kamarju said, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit W58 received in evidence.
Ms. Murray said, If we'd please publish that, Ms. Loftus. We could start up at the top. Mr. Zhou, what website is shown in Government Exhibit 58?
This is a G Fashion website.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if we could scroll down a bit, please. Looking at the right there, do you see G Fashion silk pant?
Yes.
What is the listed price of that item?
$880.
And is that the same item that is in Government Exhibit 33?
Correct.
Ms. Murray said, We can take that down, Ms. Loftus. One more physical exhibit that you have, Mr. Zhou, Government Exhibit 35. If you could take that out. What is Government Exhibit 35?
Yes. This is a gold limited edition whistles.
How was that item advertised on the G Fashion website?
Advertises only was 77 made and it's 24K.
What was the cost of that whistle?
I paid about $3,200 for it.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, if we could please publish what's in evidence as Government Exhibit VO 67. Mr. Zhou, what is Government Exhibit VO 67?
That's paid receipt confirmation email.
And that's for the whistle that is Government Exhibit 35?
Correct.
What material did you say that the whistle was advertised as?
24K gold.
Do you have an understanding or an impression of whether that whistle was, in fact, gold?
Mr. Kumraju said, Objection, Your Honor.
The court said, Sustained.
Mr. Zhou, have you weighed that whistle?
I did.
How much did it weigh approximately?
Mr. Kumraju said, Objection, Your Honor.
The court said, Overruled. You may answer.
0.7 ounce.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, permission to publish Government Exhibit 35 to the jury.
The court said you may.
Mr. Zhou, why, if at all, did you weigh the whistle after you purchased it?
I was just curious about if real or not.
What do you mean if it was real or not?
Mr. Kumraju said, Objection.
The court said, Overruled. You may answer.
When I first received the packaging, when I first opened, I saw a little bit dust go on it. The gold itself the craftsmanship was little bit rough. My knowledge. This is a limited edition as collectible items, that made me little bit concerned.
Mr. Zhou, returning to. Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus, we can take that down. Thank you. Returning to what you expected or understood that you would receive in exchange for paying money to G clubs. I think you mentioned a currency, is that correct?
Yes.
What was that? Can you explain that to the jury?
It is currency introduced called G-dollar and the G-coins. It was digital currency and also digital cryptocurrencies that also will be launched from exchange.
And when you say exchange, what are you referring to?
At the time we have a change is called Himalaya Exchange.
At that time in 2021, when you invested in, when you paid for a G Club's memberships. What was your understanding of what the Himalaya Exchange was?
Himalaya Exchange was another part of G series for financial freedom created by MileSqua. And it gave people much better opportunity to transfer monies instantly. Also no boundaries. And also for the most securities you will get.
And at that time, in 2021, what was your understanding about the Himalaya Exchange based on?
The G-dollar was equal to $1 values, and will have gold standards for the H-coins. The full name? It's Himalaya Coins, it's backed by 20% gold. So that adds all the value to it.
Why, if at all, did you believe in the time, in 2021, that the Himalaya currencies were backed 20% by gold?
MileSqua personally announced that.
To your knowledge, at that time, in 2021, who was in charge of the Himalaya Exchange?
The person, I don't know.
At that time, in 2021, who, if anyone, promoted the Himalaya Exchange?
MileSqua promoted Himalaya Exchange.
Did there come a time when you purchased any of the digital currencies that were available on the Himalaya Exchange?
No.
Why not?
Because there's a policy, it's restricted to sell to the residents in the States.
And how was it your understanding at that time, in 2021, that it was restricted?
Also MileSqua mentioned that.
Did there come a time when you sent money to purchase Himalaya coin or Himalaya dollars?
I didn't send money to get Himalaya dollars, but I was given opportunity to purchase H-coins.
And what was that opportunity?
That opportunity is based on my previous G-series investments and donations for the previous investment. Also, I'm a follower of this movement, the opportunity was given to me.
Who, if anyone, gave you the opportunity to purchase H coins?
Miles Squad gave us the opportunity.
Ms. Murray said, Ms. Loftus. If we could please pull up for the witness what's marked for identification as government exhibits VO 107 and VO 108. Mr. Zhou, do you recognize these?
Yes.
Generally speaking, what are they?
On the right side.
Sorry. Just a moment, sir. If you could, just at a general level, what type of document or item is this?
That's my personal investment summary.
And are these contents that were taken from your phone?
From my computers.
Did you provide these to the government?
Yes, I did.
Ms. Murray said, Your Honor, the government moves to admit government exhibits VO 107 and VO 108.
Mr. Kamaraju said, no objection to their admission, Your Honor.
The court said, they are admitted.
Government's exhibits VO 107, VO 108 received in evidence.
The court said, it's now 11:30 members of the jury, so we're going to take our half-hour break. Remember that I need for you to be ready to walk through that door at noon. Remember also that you're not allowed to discuss this case amongst yourselves, or with anyone else. Don't permit anyone to discuss the case in your presence. Sir, you are not to discuss your testimony.
Jury not present.
The court said, you may be seated. Counsel, anything before we come back for our break?
Mr. Kamaraju said, not from the defense, Your Honor.
Ms. Murray said, not from the government, Your Honor.
The court said, all right then. You may step down.
The witness said, thank you, Your Honor. Luncheon recess.